between Europe and Asia, economic dialogue, humanitarian missions, multi-vector operating and the search for compromises in the world arena. How else does Kazakhstan participate in the development of the modern world? For more details, watch the program Kazakhstan International Vectors. Today you will find out what the job of logistics specialist is about, how the transport security is being provided in Kazakhstan, and what rails will connect Astana with other regions of Kazakhstan.
In modern conditions, transport system is the most important factor in the national security of any country. Roads and highways unite and connect countries. For example, the so-called Pan-American Highway is considered the biggest road on the planet. Its length is more than 40,000 kilometers, which is close to the length of the Earth's equator. The road connects the US and Canada with the countries of Latin America. Japan has a modern and efficient transport system with a length of almost 1.5 million kilometers of roads, which serves more than 100 million people. In any state, the transport sector creates millions of jobs and forms the demand for products from dozens of other industries. Development of transport complex and achievement of the international level requirements for transport security creates prerequisites for obtaining benefits and advantages in the sphere of export of transport services.
Hello, come on in. Welcome to Go With Me Transport Logistics Company, which is very young and whose goal is to unite the most successful logistics professionals who will solve problems related to transport and logistics issues.
Вопросы, связанные с транспортно-логистическими вопросами.
Nurlan Kusev is engaged in logistics for more than 10 years. Having received the appropriate education and gained experience, he decided to open his own company in Almaty. In different kinds of companies, often there is a moment of significance of work and its diversity. In these terms, logistics is a fairly diverse type of activity, including communication and some new acquaintances. Every time you meet new people, you exchange experience in different situations. That is, this profession is very interesting. Therefore, I found myself in this field, so I can say that I do not just work, but I do what I love. There are 13 employees working currently in the company's office, made in a modern format. All the guys are young and ambitious, and everyone properly understands their duties. Afterwards, I have clarified the entire situation to the client and explained that container transportation will be optimal and more profitable for him. Excellent. Thank you. As you can see, most of the customers do not understand and do not know how much and what actually they need to transport. The guys try always to offer them the most convenient option. For 3 months of work, the company has successfully served about 130 applications from a variety of customers. To the question, what qualities should a good logistics specialist have, Nulan answers.
В нашей компании существует такое выражение, как суперлогист.
There is such an expression in our company, a super logistics specialist, and all of us are striving to be just this super logistician. It means being responsible, true, decent, positive, competent and cheerful, to be able to raise both the mood of ourselves and of our customers during the working process, communicative and able to convey his or her own emotions.
То есть, умеющий передавать свои эмоции.
The company has even developed a special 5-day course which is called How to Become a Logistician. For 5 days of theory and 2 weeks of practice, anyone can learn all the tricks of the career. It is very important for me that you work out my bid for the Burundai plant from Almaty to St. Petersburg for the supply of sugar. 6 machines. It is still relevant. Good? Transport interlinks the economy of any country. The transport system is a state strategically important object and an integral part of the economy. Reliable provision of transport security is one of the urgent tasks for many states of the world. Kazakhstan also sets a goal to harmonize national transport legislation with international requirements by improving the level of infrastructure development and competitiveness of domestic carriers on the external market. Integration processes on the Eurasian continent and in the world space strengthen the importance of the transport potential of Kazakhstan. Huge territory of the country, low population density, as well as remoteness from world markets make the development of the transport system vital for the Republic. The paramount task in these conditions is to ensure the safety of transport, which is an important and priority area in the protection of national interests. We serve more than 16,000 kilometers of railways, where there are more than 300 railway stations which are engaged in the reception and departure of freight and passenger trains. The main activity of the Transport Police, for example, is aimed at ensuring the safety of citizens who use this transport. The importance of rail transport in Kazakhstan is very high. Kazakhstani railways account for 68% of all freight turnover and over 57% of the country's passenger flow. The length of railways exceed 15,000 kilometers and 16 joint points connect the railway system of Kazakhstan with neighboring states. By railway, we border with the Russian Federation, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan. At these stations, we fully provide joint security measures. With Russia, Kyrgyzstan and Uzbekistan, we have border stations where there are our units which have fully signed plans with the neighboring states, either line policemen or other units, depending on the state. There are joint plans for the development of security measures on these international trains and international stations, and we have worked out everything. Inadequate state of vehicles and infrastructure create one of the main industrial threats in the field of transport security. Threats of a natural character include such factors as floods, earthquakes, tsunamis, landslides and other natural elements and cataclysms. The social nature of threats to transport security is expressed in the form of various unlawful acts of interference in the normal functioning of the transport complex, theft, damage or destruction of property and the objects of transport infrastructure can also be attributed to it. At some railway stations where there is a dislocation of our units, be they inside the building, on the platform, as well as by patrolling our employees, the security of citizens is also ensured. The main task is security, just the people who are already coming out with intentions of a legal act, the same theft to commit or some fraudulent actions, for example, this is what we are trying to suppress. Transportation freight is one of the most important factors of Kazakhstan's competitiveness and plays an important role for the country's economy due to the great distance from the main sales markets. In this regard, the safety of cargo itself is also important.
Dangerous cargoes are any products, substances, materials which due to specific properties can cause ignition, explosion or damage to any kind of property during storage, transportation, loading or unloading. They also can damage the health of people, animals and disrupt the ecological situation.
Substances that can affect the environment are falling under the concept of dangerous goods. These dangerous goods are divided into categories, and during the transportation, the carrier must comply with certain standards for packaging these dangerous goods that are transported. Dangerous goods in our country are accompanied by railroad guard under the list of nomenclature, and they give them escort. In the United States, any manufacturing or trading company that has an access to the road prefers to use automobiles to deliver the necessary products and raw materials. Thus, trucks of different classes transport everything for long distances in the US, except for loose products which are being transported by the railway, and oil and gas which are being delivered by tankers and through pipelines. Cargo transportation in general contributes to 6% of the gross national product of the United States.
At the beginning of this year, the turnover of the industry of long-distance cargo transportation by automobiles amounted to $182 billion, from 2011 increasing by an average of 2% per year. The industry employs more than 1 million Americans who are either private entrepreneurs or work for one of 400,000 companies.
According to the Bureau of Transportation Statistics of the Department of Transportation of the United States, in 2013, more than 12.5 billion tons of cargoes have been transported by cars, out of a total turnover of just over 18 billion tons. Almost 3 million trucks with trailers were used on highways. The national system of U.S. motorways, with a length of almost 260,000 kilometers, lets passing such a large number of cars and cargoes. These roads are considered strategically important targets for defense, economy and mobility of the population.
Throughout the world, there are different methods for assessing the security of infrastructure, in particular the road safety. For example, in Europe, there is the EURAP, Europe Road Assessment Program. There are systems alike in the US, Australia and even in China, our neighbor. We are also trying to introduce this system in Kazakhstan at the stage of design projects, road design in particular.
Эту систему в Казахстане на этапе дизайна проектов, дизайна дорог.
For any state, one of the prerequisites for expanding the international community is to enter the world economy and develop international trade relations. Acceleration of the integration processes of Kazakhstan's transport system into the international transport system and the development of transit potential are among the main objectives of the state transport policy of the Republic. And in this, Kazakhstan has assistance. The World Bank celebrates the 25th anniversary of partnership with Kazakhstan this year, and over the years many projects have been implemented. For example, since 2009, a large-scale project for the construction of an international Western Europe-Western China transport corridor is being implemented.
И если говорить конкретно о наших участках, которые мы профинансировали, это участки.
And if we talk specifically about our sites which we have financed, these are the roads of about 180 kilometers in the Kyzylardar region. Well, you understand that this affects almost all areas of the Kyzylardar region. You can imagine how many people are there, and the entire South Kazakhstan, which is also one of the most numerous in the country, and the section of Almaty-Khorgos highway of 305 kilometers, which is also a road that is very important for the economy of the country. Again, there are a lot of people living there, firstly. Secondly, very many people plan to use this road as supplies of organic products grown in Kazakhstan to China, because in China, you understand, there is a problem with the lack of organic food.
Потому что в Китае, вы понимаете, есть проблема с нехваткой органических продуктов питания.
Allocating funds to a particular project, the World Bank draws attention first of all to the multiplicative effect of its implementation. So, speaking of the transport sector, the organization's representatives mean not only the number of kilometers built, but also their social and economic effect. Great attention is paid to security issues.
Значит, мы провели аудит безопасности, дизайна дорог.
So, we conducted an audit of the safety of road design on the site from Karaganda to Burul-Baital. These are the new sites that we plan to finance starting this year. The roads were rated 4 stars out of 5 possible. This does not mean that these roads are poorly designed. No, on the contrary, we say that these roads were designed remarkably very well.
Нет, мы наоборот говорим, что эти дороги были спроектированы замечательно, очень хорошо.
The World Bank representatives have also developed a number of recommendations to make the design of roads, bus stops, intersections and other things as safe as possible.
Мы видим несколько
We see several important sectors in Kazakhstan where the World Bank could bring some benefit. In particular, we are talking about the development of logistics in the country, because Kazakhstan is, let's say, in a very favorable geographical position, where it can link the rapidly growing Chinese market and, let's say, the consumption market in Europe. The second direction we see, which is very important for Kazakhstan, is the development of urban transport. This means the correct management and efficient management of traffic flows in cities, because this too has much influence, is of great importance for the population of cities, for saving their way and time and so on.
There is one more perspective direction of possible work of the World Bank in Kazakhstan, which also concerns the transport sector. This is the development of local roads, meaning not only about good asphalt and bus stops, but also about convenient public transport routes in remote settlements. If talking about urban transport, it should be sustainable, that is, eco-friendly and as comfortable as possible.
What happens when the question is solved, for example, and what should we do to improve the service of the population? We first say, let's buy new buses. When the bus is bought, next we came across with the fact that who will drive these buses and what level of service quality these buses will represent. And now, within the framework of the UNDP project, we are trying to get this second part to come to the fore and became for the time being the main one, because without proper maintenance, these buses quickly break down whenever they have been produced and whoever paid for them. You can buy the most newfangled electric buses and say that it is super for the economy and ecology of the city. But if it cannot go, because it was wrongly charged or misused, even the most modern bus will become useless.
One bus for the number of passengers equals to 50 cars. A great responsibility for the lives of all people in the cabin lies on a bus driver. Therefore, it is the training of personnel in the transport sector that UNDP representatives in Kazakhstan advise to pay special attention to.
Institutional base and operational readiness to introduce some new technologies is always very important, and we now urge the Akimat to invest more in people, namely in planning, in staff who is engaged in planning. Because, well, you can invite foreign specialists once, the second time you can invite foreign experts, but often the questions are encountered every day, and this is inefficient. We need to raise our local specialists who will deal with these issues, and this is also an element of sustainable transport. That is, the availability of local highly educated staff who is able to manage this public transport.
Собственных высокообразованных кадров, которые способны этим общественным транспортом управлять.
In the framework of the newly Joly program, nearly 770 billion tenge was allocated in the country for the development and reconstruction of motorways last year. In addition, until 2020, it is planned to build more than 6,500 kilometers of highways, which will connect Astana with the regions, forming rays of roads. Transportation has always been and will always be, says the entrepreneur, despite the fact that the company of Nulan is just starting its way on the market of Kazakhstan. He is already proud of the success of his team and is making plans for the future. For a short period of time, since May, the room where we started was only 35 squares, for only 7 employees. And during this period we have already moved to a new office, which is 100 square meters more. So in plans for us in the next 2 months to master 200 more squares. We want to create a community for logistic professionals who could work in this field to provide the right service. We also plan to open the Moscow branch of the Go With Me company in September. The state of the transport complex and its level of protection directly and indirectly affect other components of the country's national security.
Дороги – это, конечно же, очень важная артерия, которая помогает нам ежедневно.
Roads are, of course, a very important artery that helps us in our daily lives. But again, You need to use all this with the mind. You need to build it with the mind. You need to be smart users of these roads, get attached, and so on. Therefore, we believe that these investments, which Kazakhstan, for example, does in the development of the Republican highway network, are very important investments that every Kazakhstani needs.
Автодорог – это очень важные инвестиции, которые необходимы каждому казахстанцу.
Поэтому, с одной стороны, мы должны обращать внимание на экологические критерии.
Therefore, on the one hand, we should pay attention to environmental criteria, yes, when we talk about sustainable transport, that is, talk about the development of those modes of transport that do the least damage to the environment. On the second hand, we need to talk about safe transport and about the infrastructure that helps and attracts people to connect and move with greater efficiency, with the least fuel consumption.
С наименьшим потреблением топлива, невозобновляемых источников энергии.
A prerequisite for successful integration in the qualitative development of the transport complex, which can lead to lower costs in the economy and increase the competitiveness of domestic production to the formation of competitive international transport corridors, the mandatory characteristic of which is the international level of transport security.